Peace, love, liberty, radio.
And the walls come crashing down as the war at home reaches your town. You have no choice, it's safe and clean. We all submit to the war machine.
Did you hear the news? Did you hear the news? Well, it's not yet completely happened, but it's getting close. The Free State Project is closing in on the goal of 20,000 signers. As of last night, which is the last time I looked at the signer number, it was near 18,500. It was like 18,490 something. So basically 18,500 people have signed the pledge to move to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project and exert the fullest maximum effort to the creation of a society in which the maximum role of government is the protection of life, liberty, and property. There's headlines being made because of this. And one of the largest newspapers in the state has a story about this. The New Hampshire Union Leader reports, New Year's morning, the Free State Project announced it had reached 92% of its goal of signing up 20,000 people to move to the Granite State. As of Friday, 18,406 people have pledged to move to New Hampshire within 5 years of the project reaching its goal of 20,000 signers. This new number of signers also reflects a jump of 2% over the past few weeks. Carla Garrick, Free State Project president, said on Friday, "We attribute that most of the growth is coming from targeted Facebook advertising. We're pushing a lot more money into this, and we're hoping to trigger the move in the next few months." The Free State Project was inspired by a 2001 essay written by Jason Sorens, then a graduate student at Yale University. He theorized in the essay that if 20,000 committed activists moved to a single state with a small enough population, they could successfully shape policy and culture to create a more free and open libertarian society. Early participants chose New Hampshire in 2003. Sorens has since moved to the Upper Valley region of New Hampshire, where he is a lecturer at Dartmouth College. Once the move is triggered, it's likely that not all 20,000 signers of the pledge will move to New Hampshire, Garrick says. However, more than 10% have already moved, and I am among those. And it's very interesting, and I'll get back into the article from the Union Leader here in just a second. But it's very interesting, because when I moved, I thought I missed the honors of being among the first 1,000 people. And the reason I thought that I missed that is because the way they were keeping track of the numbers originally, they were including the Free State Project participants that were living in New Hampshire prior to the vote of which state to wind up having be the target state. So when I moved, I thought I was mover 1019. Turns out I'm in-state participant 1019. I'm mover number 746. And there are now, I think I've heard somewhere near 1,800 movers, plus those that were in-state, plus you have a large group of people that are what they call friends of the Free State Project, meaning that they had either lived here prior to whatever, or for some reason, while they were living in New Hampshire, they decided, well, I like this, and I'll sign up as a friend. So it's people that otherwise don't qualify for being a Free State Project participant. So when you add those people in, plus the people that have moved, plus the people that lived here that were FSP participants before the vote, plus the people that are liberty-minded, that haven't signed up as a friend of the Free State Project, because there are those people as well. There are thousands upon thousands of liberty-minded people in New Hampshire. And yes, there are some people that are absolute hardcore lovers of government, and they will do everything they can to prevent the creation of a society in which the maximum role of government is the protection of life, liberty, and property. There are people that they want to wind up instituting prohibitions on women being topless in New Hampshire, and you've probably heard some of these stories. You've probably seen some of these stories. And I'll talk about that just a little bit before I, again, get back into the article from the Union Leader about the Free State Project nearing the goal of 20,000 people. So currently, in New Hampshire, it is perfectly legal, meaning that there's not anything in statute making it illegal for a woman to be topless in public. And technically, because of this thing called anatomy, women can technically be completely nude in public because the prohibition on exposure says that you can't expose your genitals in public. And technically, female genitalia is internal. But I don't know of anybody that's ever actually challenged that one in court or, ever tried to walk around butt naked. And when cited for indecent exposure, gone to court and said, no, here's a doctor. This doctor can tell you. Doctor, where are the female genitals? Well, the female genitals are internal. I rest my case. I did not expose my genitalia. So I don't know if that's ever been done. But there were some people that over the summer did a Free the Nipple rally, and they were not initially charged with violating the town ordinance in the town they were in. They were charged a couple weeks later in another town where they weren't holding a rally. They just happened to, these females just happened to have been at the beach without their tops on, which was in violation of a town ordinance, not a state law. And so they're arguing that because New Hampshire does not have home rule, meaning that local municipalities can only do things that the state government says that they're allowed to do, that the ordinance should be thrown out. They should be found not guilty. They had the trial on that 1 week ago, and the judge did not issue a ruling from the bench. He said, I'll take this under advisement. And so basically he'll notify the parties at a later date whether they are guilty or not guilty. So there was earlier or late last year during the filing period for legislation, a couple of state reps, male, by the way, all of the sponsors and co-sponsors of this bill are men, that filed a bill to criminalize women being topless in public. And, well, this has really blown up, and there have been state reps that have traded barbs online, and I might actually get into some of that later in the show, but I definitely want to finish this article about the Free State Project nearing the goal of 20,000 signers to move to the Granite State.
Hey, this is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends radio show. I've been working with computer programmer Derek Slopey to create Fiend Phone. I'm using Fiend Phone right now to talk with and record one of my co-hosts in real time. Take it, Davi.
Hey, this is Davi Barker, and I'm 1,000 miles away from Michael, but we sound like we're in the same room.
We sure do, Davi. So, Davi, please tell the nice people more about Fiend Phone.
Fiend Phone is free, open-source software that opens up a global world of possibilities for collaborative, high-quality remote voice media production, and I'm digging it.
People can try the Windows beta version of Fiend Phone right now at fiendphone.com. But we're also raising money to vastly improve Fiend Phone and vastly improve independent talk media worldwide.
So go to fiendphone.com to help out. Who will build the audio roads? We will, with your help.
That's fiendphone.com. FEENPHONE.com. Foxtrot, Echo, November, phone.com.
Fiend Phone. I never knew remote audio could be this good.
When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Are you an advocate for free market money? Do you promote Bitcoin as an alternative in a fiat-centric world? Then you need Spend-A-Bit in your arsenal. Spend-A-Bit is the search engine for things you can buy. You guessed it, with Bitcoin. Spend-A-Bit aggregates millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants, including services and merchants like Overstock.com and Free Press Publications. Keep your money in the free economy. Spend-A-Bit. Use my affiliate link, spendabit.fppradio.com. And if you're a Bitcoin-accepting merchant, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. Spendabit.fppradio.com. That's spendabit.fppradio.com. So getting back into the article from the Union Leader, get this train back on the tracks, if you will. The Free State Project is nearing the goal of 20,000 signers. It jumped from 90% to 91% in a matter of about a week and a half, from 91 to 92 in about 2 days. And that was a couple days ago. They're probably nearing 93% right now. And by the end of this week, they'll probably be at 94, possibly 95%. And they're expecting, based on this recent jump, they're expecting to complete the signer process, trigger the move, if you will, by the New Hampshire Liberty Forum coming up February 18th through the 21st in beautiful Manchester, New Hampshire. And, oh yeah, Edward Snowden is going to be speaking. So if you have the time and the monies to travel to New Hampshire February 18th through the 21st, definitely consider coming up to the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. You can find out more at nhlibertyforum.com. And no, I was not paid to tell you anything about the Liberty Forum. So, getting back into the article. So, we're nearing 20,000 signers for the Free State Project. More than 10% of the people that have signed have already moved. And so that puts us somewhere near 2,000 people that have already moved or were in state previously, plus the Friends of the Free State, or rather Friends of the Free State Project. So there are thousands of liberty-minded people already in New Hampshire. Carla Garrick, the president of the FSP, says, I think if we get 30 or 40% of the movers who signed the pledge to come, I think we'll see some really interesting stuff. Certainly, I think we can anticipate more people will run for office. Early movers have participated in civil disobedience in Keene, where liberty activists calling themselves Robin Hooders fill expired meters just ahead of parking enforcement officers. And technically, Robin Hooding is not civil disobedience. I repeat, putting money in a parking meter is not civil disobedience. It's the complete opposite. It is civil obedience, because you are helping people comply with the statute. Civil disobedience is where you intentionally violate a statute. What they're doing, what the Robin Hooders were doing, and it's slowed down and almost come to a complete halt at this point, but what they were doing was not encouraging people to violate a law, but they were actually helping people comply with a law. They were preventing people from getting a parking ticket. They were preventing people from getting fines. So that's the complete opposite of disobedience. That's civil obedience. But I digress. In Portsmouth, liberty activist led Free Uber a group battling city officials over the legality of being an Uber driver operating in the city. And I've actually been to a couple of the hearings out there in Portsmouth where the city council heard stuff on basically making it illegal to be an Uber driver without jumping through hoops and hurdles to call yourself a taxi driver, which Uber drivers are not taxi drivers. They're independent contractors, and they are not working for a taxi company. Uber is not a taxi company. Uber is a rideshare service. So I don't know why anyone would call themselves a taxi driver that's not a taxi driver. I could call myself a yak farmer. It doesn't make me one. I've never even seen a yak in person that I can recall. Maybe at the zoo, I don't know. But it would make absolutely no sense for me to go get a yak farmer license so that I can feed some pigs for the next couple of weeks while I house sit for somebody that's got pigs. Makes no sense. But apparently a couple of people have jumped through the hoops. They're calling themselves taxi drivers even though they're not taxi drivers. But nonetheless, I'll find the links to some of the videos that I've done out there in Portsmouth on the free Uber thing. Post that in the show notes if you are so inclined. You can watch some interviews that I did with Christopher David, the founder of Free Uber. I also recorded an interview with Uber Grandma, Stephanie Franz. So far, she's the only person that's been targeted for violating this ordinance. Well, specifically targeted and cited for violating this ordinance. Christopher David did get a felony wiretapping charge because he recorded a conversation with a bouncer that happened in public. But because New Hampshire currently is a all-party consent state for audio recording, doesn't matter that it was in public, he's still being charged with wiretapping. But he only had that conversation with the bouncer because he was driving for Uber, and the bouncer's yelling at him, saying, I'm going to call the cops, that you're violating the ordinance, blah, 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 blah. So I've got those interviews. I'll post the links in the show notes. Getting back into the Union Leader article, early mover and Croydon School Board member, or rather School Board Chair, Jody Underwood, has led the fight for school choice in her town, maintaining that state law does not prohibit school districts from paying tuition to private schools, especially when it's in the best interest of the student. Many have also served in the state government, including a single mother and state representative for Manchester's Ward 5, Amanda Bolden. That name will ring a bell, especially if you've paid any attention to what I referenced in the last segment about the Free the Nipple thing. She's the state rep that called out some of the sponsors of the bill to criminalize, not just make it a violation, a criminal penalty, misdemeanor, a non-classified misdemeanor, meaning that they could charge you with a Class A, which means that if you're convicted, you could go to jail for up to 1 year. All because you decided to walk around without a shirt and you happen to be a woman. Well, Amanda Bolden, according to the Union Leader article here, she is one of the state reps, and that's really all they say about her for now. Free Staters are at the core, or rather at their core, are libertarians who believe in individual freedom and choice and that less government serves freedom best. Like many Free Staters, Bolden believes community, not government, should care for those in need. 5 years ago, she started Shire Sharing, which, according to its website, is a collaborative effort among liberty activists to address social ills through voluntary action and private charity. This past November, the charity delivered Thanksgiving meals to more than 600 households across the state. There's a little bit more from this article that I'll get to. Stay tuned. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
During the 2013 Porcupine Freedom Festival, Davi Barker presented an idea for a renegade psychological experiment. Since then, he has refined his idea and put his plan and research into writing. He explains, "We aim to show the world beyond a shadow of a doubt that power corrupts absolutely and corrupt authority deserves no obedience. Authoritarian Sociopathy is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at weusecoins.com. That's weusecoins.com.
It is the year 91,001 BCE. Witness humanity's origins in Hyperchronius, a classic role-playing game for Windows PCs, with a story like no other game before. The liberty-oriented experience that is not to be missed. Go to zog.ninja to get your copy of Hyperchronius today. Use the code FPP to get $1 off. Hyperchronius, zog.ninja, code FPP.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
So before I continue with the report here from the New Hampshire Union leader about the Free State Project triggering the move, I want to make sure that I tell you about a way that you can help this show. You can help this show by becoming one of my fans. You can help the show by joining the fans program. No, you currently don't get a membership card, although I probably should make some of those up and send membership cards to members of the fans program so that you can then say, I am a card-carrying fan of Free Press Publications. I am a fan of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. I'm a fan of FPP Radio News. I'm a fan of all the various media outlets that Darryl produces. Well, you can join the fans program, and hopefully I'll get around to the card-carrying status at some point, but you can join the fans program for as little as $3 per month through Patreon. And Patreon really helps me be able to wind up giving out some of the benefits a little bit easier, to where I give you commercial-free access to this show. Not just this episode that you're listening to right now, but every episode of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, going back to when I started with Patreon, that is. So it only goes back about 5 months. The commercial-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, the commercial-free versions of FPP Radio News. You also get perks like the newspaper that I publish. You get that delivered to your mailbox every month. You get a copy of the newspaper, physical newspaper, in your mailbox every month. Commercial-free access to the podcast, Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, and the newscast, FPP Radio News. And there are other perks that you can get at higher levels. You can find all of that info at fans.fppradio.com. That's fans.fppradio.com. Getting back into the article from the Union Leader about the Free State Project getting ready to trigger the move. Carla Garrick, again, she's the president of the FSP, says, I definitely think that the community building is integral to the project. We're trying to lead by example by creating private charities. Ann Bolden is the perfect example of a free stater who backs up her values with action, Garrick says, adding New Hampshire was chosen in large part because of its live and let live ethos. A lot of people living here are already liberty-minded. Some people have disparaged the FSP for not yet reaching its goal after more than a decade, but Garrick said that has actually worked out for the best. There's already a community of free staters who support the newcomers in various ways, showing up to help them move in, holding orphan Thanksgivings, and recommending local doctors and auto shops, etc. And let me just talk about these move-in parties, to where I've been to some of these move-in parties. When I moved, I did not have a move-in party. And it was because, well, I didn't exactly know where I was going to wind up landing. My goal when I got to New Hampshire was to hang out in Keene for a couple of days before going to Manchester to look for work. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, depending upon how one looks at it, I was unable to wind up finding like a short-term room to rent or anything else in Manchester. I had several people say, I'll let you know, but they never got back to me. And I wound up finding a place in Keene and wound up just decided, oh, you know what? I'll look for work here and see what I can find. And wound up finding work a couple days after I got here. But I just moved. Everything I had was in my car, and it stayed in my car for a while until I put some of the stuff in storage, and I've still got some stuff in storage, and I probably just need to wind up throwing it out at some point. But nonetheless, I did not have a move-in party because I, didn't really, quote-unquote, move into anywhere for a while. But I've been to some move-in parties, and there was a move-in party that I helped at about 3 years ago now. Guy shows up middle of winter, and he had posted on a forum somewhere saying, hey, I'm moving. This is the day that I'm getting here. This is the address. Would love help. Pizza and beer. And that's really all you have to do. If you wind up moving to New Hampshire, that's really all you have to do to get people to come help you unload your stuff. This guy had the 20-foot, 26-foot U-Haul truck. Plus, he had a trailer that he towed behind his Jeep, and we unloaded everything with 2 or 3 dozen people. Everything got unloaded in less than an hour. So if you're one of these people that operates on Libertarian Standard Time, you're probably showing up just for the pizza and beer because all the actual work is done. And you might be asking yourself, what's Libertarian Standard Time? Libertarian Standard Time is normal human time, responsible adult time, plus about 45 minutes. So there actually have been some move-in parties where everything got done in less than 45 minutes. There was another move-in party that I went to where the guy had 3 8-foot trailers. They were what they call the pods. And all of these got unloaded in less than half an hour, including the one that they put on the trailer backwards, meaning that we unzip the covering and where the hell's the door? Where's the door? Start pulling the cover up, see that the door's on the opposite side. All right, so we get the cover ripped off of this thing enough to where we can kind of open the door, and we couldn't open it the whole way because of the trailer, the towing part. So we had this door open a quarter of the way, just enough to where you could get in and hand some stuff out. We still got all 3 trailers or pods unloaded in less than half an hour. So this guy comes back with a pizza. He's like, all right, what needs done? Eat. That's what needs to be done. We've got everything unloaded. He was like, really? How? We did. And that was maybe 12.5 people. So the move-in parties are just amazing. And I've never seen anything like this ever before anywhere. A lot of times if you move into a new community, you might be able to, know somebody through some kind of, a friend of a friend sort of thing. But I've never seen any organization that will just show up without knowing who you are, other than you posted somewhere saying, I'm moving, I'd like help unloading my stuff. And people just show up and help you unload. And it's really great because it's you move somewhere and you instantly have friends. And that's just amazing. Getting back into the article, there is a pay-it-forward ethos in the FSP community. Garrick says, if 15 people help you move in, you turn around and go to 5 move-in parties. It's not easy to uproot your life and move to another state, and these early movers are already in place to make that transition easier. The community is the head of it, and I think that ultimately becomes the selling point. Go to freestateproject.org if you are not a signer, but you're thinking about signing, you're thinking about moving. Literally, do it before it's too late because we're getting close to that 20,000. Don't forget that Ask Me Anything. Send those questions AMA at FPPradio.com.